In this tutorial, we're going to take a look at entering transactions. First of all, what is a transaction? A transaction is basically money coming into the business or money going out. So an example of money coming in would be a rent received from a tenant. An example of money going out could be a repairs bill to repair something. Before we start entering the transactions, we need to set up a few things. So I'm going to go to the Functions menu, Set Up, and I'll take a look at bank accounts first. Now by default there's one bank account, but you can add your own bank accounts. You can add as many bank accounts as you like. So I could add a second account. And optionally I can choose to enter in an opening balance date, and I can say that on that date it had a balance of this amount. There we go, now I've added my second account, and I can add as many as I need. Next I need to set up my income and expense groups. So to do that I go to the Chart of Accounts menu option. You can see I've got a number of income groups. They say income in this column. One of them is the rent income group. So every time I record money coming in, I want to be able to classify what sort of transaction that is. So for reporting purposes, it means I can classify and report on different groups of transactions. And also, if it's a rent income transaction, we do special things with that. And also expense groups. So I've got a number of expense groups set up. So I've got things like bank charges, cleaning, lawns, maintenance, repairs. So I can add as many income and expense groups as I need. The next thing I'll look at is payees. A payee is a person who you have paid money to. So if you want to keep track of who you've paid money to, you can add a payee. So I might add one now. I might have a payee called Mr. Builder. And you can also set up your own payment methods as well if you want to record how they have paid, whether it's cash or check or automatic payments. Now that I've set these up, I can now actually start entering my transactions. So I go to the cash book screen under transactions, and you can see I've got my two bank accounts, my first bank account and the second account that I've just created. I can also load existing transactions, so if I push the search button, it's going to find all existing transactions from this month. I haven't actually entered any transactions yet this month. So I'm going to start adding my first transaction. So I'm going to choose the Add button. First thing I need to do is I need to specify what group I'm using. So the income groups are shown with the green icon and the expense groups are shown with the red icon. So I'm going to choose rent because I've got money coming in from a tenant. I'm going to enter the amount that I have just received, 120, the date, and I choose the property that the transaction belongs to. Now after I select that property, you'll see it's automatically filled in the bank account, because on the property details screen you can specify the default bank account for each property. It's also pre-filled the tenant for me because there is only one tenant currently occupying that property. I can then choose the payment method if I want to, and I can enter any sort of reference number or any notes for that transaction. Down here in blue, because I've chosen the tenant, it tells me that the balance before this transaction was 300. I've just paid 120, so the balance after will be 180. It also tells me that the current rent amount, the regular rent amount for this tenant is 200. So that's just additional information. I have the option down here to create a receipt for this transaction, and the receipt format itself is created using the mail merge facility. There's a separate tutorial which goes through the mail merge facility. But I won't create a receipt this time, instead I'll just save that transaction. So that's been saved, and there it is over there. Let's add another transaction. So this time I'm going to do a repairs transaction, so that's an expense. So I'm going to choose repairs. For the repairs income group, this one has been set up to record tax. So I've got the three boxes here, the tax inclusive, the tax amount and the exclusive amount. And if I enter one of those text boxes, the other two are automatically calculated for me. Again, I enter the date, I choose the property, the bank account and the payee. So there's Mr. Builder that I created just a few minutes ago. But if I want to, I can add a new payee myself right now on this by just typing into this box here. So maybe I paid some money to the plumber. Again, I can record the payment method, reference and notes, but I'll just press save. So there's my two transactions. You'll see the repair has gone through automatically with a negative number because it's an expense, and the income is a positive number. Now some people get confused entering transactions. What is a transaction? What is not a transaction? So the general rule of thumb is what's entered in the cash book should be near on identical to what's on your bank statement. So this rent income transaction here should be somewhere on my bank statement, and this repairs should be somewhere on my bank statement. And likewise, any transaction that doesn't appear on the bank statement shouldn't appear in the cash book either. It shouldn't be here if it's not on your bank statement. They should be, this cash book screen and the bank statement should be identical or very close to it. Another thing I can do on the screen is I can start filtering transactions. So I've got lots of different filters here. I can filter on date, range and property. So I may say show me all transactions from the last 7 days, but I only want to see the rent transactions. Search. So now if I can only see that rent transaction, and if I choose repairs, it's going to show me that repair transaction that I created. Now there's other ways of creating transactions as well. One of them is to use the import statement menu option up here. There's a separate tutorial which goes into details on how to import a bank statement. Another way of creating transactions is automatic transactions. So that's a transaction that occurs on a regular basis, like a tenant may pay a fixed amount of rent every 7 days, so we could set that up as automatic transaction. There's a separate tutorial covering that. And the other sort of transaction there are is disbursements. So if we're a property manager, we may be dispersing money back to the property owner after taking our fee out, and those transactions are created slightly differently, and there's a separate tutorial which shows how to create those. So that's how to manually create transactions through the cash book.